Hey there, Terry Miller, Karen Niebel, and Ashley. If you're talking, Terry, I can't hear you.
Well, I just unmuted.
Oh.
Hope you're doing
Okay.
well, and thank you for doing this presentation.
Oh, well, thank you for being the chair of the neighborhood committee. When Jim Weber was getting ready to retire, I found some pictures of him, and he retired from being the chair of this committee, I think, in 18. Does that sound about right? So you've been chair for 4 or 5 years? 3 years?
I think it's, yeah, I think it's 5.
Yeah, I think so too.
I do.
I couldn't remember, but I was just surprised. Time flies, right?
Oh, unreal. Yes, and my mother always used to say, the older you get, the faster the time goes.
And you laughed at her, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Here we are.
That's exactly right too. All right, hopefully you all are seeing my screen.
We do, Carol. It looks great.
Okay, well, just making sure. Let's see if I can change this over. Apparently not. You'll get to see my profile here. I'm not sure what I'm doing so that I can't. Yeah, there we go. But now we're gonna, let's see now it's gonna, there we go. Perfecto. Hopefully some others will join us, or we'll be preaching to the choir. I told Karen it was going to be sort of old home week here, reviewing some of the accomplishments we've had. Terry will recognize the picture on the front page. Thanks for dropping that stuff off, by the way, Terry, this morning. You're up way too early in the morning.
Usually by 6.
Now, Ashley, it says my screen sharing is paused.
I'll be there in just a second. I'll help you out. Hold on.
Okay. How about that? Well, I stopped and started again.
Oh, okay.
Is that, now it says I am screen sharing. Does that look the way
good.
I'm supposed to be?
Looks good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
sorry to bug you.
Oh, no, I just,
Looks like you got it going.
it took me a minute, but hey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carol, are you meaning to share the PDF? Did you want to share the presentation?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Did you want to share the presentation and not the PDF?
Well, I can do that. The reason I actually suggested that I do that because
I didn't know that. That's okay. I just didn't know.
Let's try this. I wasn't sure. Let's see if this works instead. How about that?
There you go.
Is it got the PowerPoint on it?
It's full screen now.
Okay. My concern was that when I pulled it up, it was in presentation mode, and I wanted to make sure that I was sharing the right screen. And so now I can't see anybody, but that's okay. Let's see if I can. Ha! We are ready. Hi, Carrie and Christy. I think there are a few others that are planning to come. Ashley, I forgot to look. I think Carrie Yaturi is planning to come, and Rosie. And I would assume Sherry, but I'm not sure. Hello, Steve.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there. We're just waiting a few minutes because I know that some other people had planned to join us. I don't know whether, things come up at the last minute.
You bet.
Chelsea, do you know, was Sherry planning on coming? If you're on mute.
I can hear her and it sounds like she's in a meeting right now.
Yeah, I
Oh,
haven't talked to
okay.
her today.
Perfect. Okay. Ashley, do we expect any more? New board members. There's Tammy, and Rosie is supposed to be coming too.
I'm not sure if we were expecting more.
I'll just go ahead and start.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I think everyone knows that I'm Carol Bronson, Director of Community Initiatives. We have, to the best of my knowledge, 2 new board members, Carrie, or is it Kari Young from Whitfleet, and Christy Pollard. I'm embarrassed, I think you're from KRTV, but I'm not sure. Others on the screen here are Terry Mello, the chairman of the neighborhood committee, Chelsea Hutmaker, who is the marketing and events manager right now, Ashley Graham, who holds the whole office together, Steve King, and Karen Niebel, who has been involved in the neighborhood committee for many years, and Janelle, not Figarelli, wrong last name, who is another one of those essential property manager and operations manager. So for some of you, this will be sort of a trip down memory lane, and for some, it will be a new world. Anyway, as you know, one of the part of the mission of NeighborWorks is to build stronger neighborhoods. And so in the past, we have called it many things, community building and organizing, community building and engagement. Now NeighborWorks America calls it community initiatives because it includes the rural and the health initiatives, as well as some other things. So that's why it's called community initiatives. We're going to be doing some pivoting here shortly, and we'll be changing or adding in some promotion of events, and Chelsea will explain that. So this is a summary of where we've been really in the last 40 years, because NeighborWorks originally started to build stronger neighborhoods. And so it has been the heart of our work since the very beginning. And when you look back at these pictures and you see people that are there, it really has been a long time, and we've done some amazing things. I think the purpose of this, in addition to talking about what community initiatives is to talk about the role of the neighborhood committee, because of course we want to entice you to be a part of the neighborhood committee. Welcome Healy and Carly as well. So I just put some bullet points up here. It sounds very formal, but really it's to make sure that we include the residents' perspective in all things that we do. So we look to the residents, stakeholders, and community to identify needs in the community. That's one of the things that grants often ask now is, how do you know that what you're writing for is really a thing? Did you just say, I'm going to do this thing for the folks in Black Eagle, or did you ask the folks in Black Eagle what they wanted? The other thing is to look for duplication of services, because if somebody's already doing the thing in Black Eagle, we don't want to duplicate it. Part of our mantra is to provide meaningful input and advice to NeighborWorks and to the board. It's made up of board members, residents, and stakeholders. It provides guidance to, quote, proactively solve neighborhood problems. That's part of the mandate of the neighborhood committee. It meets monthly at the pre-release. And it also serves as the community board for the pre-release in their work, because they need to hear what's going on in the community and have a direct contact with them, which is kind of neat. And so we serve many roles in the community, or have done so. In the past, we really looked at solving root problems in the community, especially in the original town site. For those of you that knew Nancy Stevenson O'Brien, she was a miracle worker in addressing crime and code violations and those kinds of things, those quality of life issues that plagued particularly the lower north side. And we've continued that through a federal program called Weed and Seed, and then through the community building line of business. Before I got here, Laura Bolstead did that work. The committee was called, I believe in the beginning, the Problem Property Committee, and it's had multiple names over the years. As I said, the focus is revitalizing communities and neighborhoods, especially to train resident leaders. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. A lot of that sounds kind of puffy, but what does it mean? Help people make positive change in the neighborhood. Obviously, everyone would like to do that, but not everyone can serve as a catalyst to do that. So one of the things, this is an example of things we've done for our community cleanup, literally going to pick up things from people's front yards. Now we kind of discourage that because it's amazing how many people have wet old mattresses on their front yards, but it gives you a visual. And we partner with many different agencies, as everyone knows, or have in the past. I had to throw in this picture of some of the resident leadership we've done in Black Eagle, in particular with the Black Eagle Civic Club. People know that there's a Superfund site there, but I don't know that everyone is aware of how it affects all of us. And back in 2012, the Civic Club asked if we could continue our work there, because it's a process. It's a long, painful process to go through a Superfund work with the EPA. So why do you care? If you look at this map where the yellow arrows are, if you see the little pink part right here with this circle of Far East Ditch, this is where, believe it or not, the remnants from the Black Eagle smelter, zinc, cadmium, lead, and arsenic, are literally running into the Missouri River. And so it is something that matters to all of us that we get this cleaned up. They're working to clean up all of this area, and across the way in that blue area on our side of the river, that is also affected from what was the smelter. So it really is a neighborhood concern. I think that almost all of the members of the Black Eagle Civic Club and me will be deceased before this is completed, but that gives you an idea of one of the kinds of things that we've worked with, because the residents have worked hard, and I think we're a model group. Another way we've addressed crime is one of our community leadership teams developed a drug take-back program that was the gold standard for the state and actually for Western United States. The DEA told me that we were collecting 65% of the drugs in the state. And then we have done all kinds of educational events and programs and so forth. I could go on and on. The picture in the upper left here is the 3 branches of law enforcement working together. That was on our Take Back program. On the right is an example of just one session of drugs that were picked up at the highway patrol. So it's a lot. And then engaging residents in community work. These are a group of neighborhood watchers. And Terry, I frankly didn't realize you were in so many of these pictures when I was doing this. Code enforcement, we helped fund the first code enforcement in Great Falls. and we have supported her. As you all know, code enforcement is a really thorny problem, and it continues to affect everything we do in our target neighborhoods. Another thing that we've done, and that I think Katie Batterby in particular now is really doing, is trying to address vacant buildings. Even though the picture on the right is kind of cattywampus there, we've been involved in trying to connect people with resources to reuse historic old buildings. That is what is now the Celtic Cowboy and the Hotel Arvon. And Joe Lonizek is the fellow that brought that about. We were involved with all of that back in the day. Community cleanup. We have been doing this since 1983, collecting about 20 tons of rubbish every year. That's a lot of rubbish. Who knew we had that much rubbish to pick up in Great Falls? This year, we did residential sites as well as just community pickup, had 27 sites and 15 teams. They worked primarily over May, I think 7th and 8th, but because of the weather, some other people have just got done this last weekend. I should say, if anybody has a question as I'm trotting through all this, let me know. I think it's pretty straightforward. Another part of improving quality of life is what is called placemaking, but it's really doing murals and supporting things to make the downtown more vibrant. Everyone has probably seen the murals on the side of Dragonfly and around that area. We started the wall murals in 2018 with a NeighborWorks America grant. And not to be boastful, but I think that it really does add to the area. It certainly has helped to keep the folks out of our back alley back there. And so it's just another way to improve the quality of life in the neighborhood. As part of that project also, we worked with the Great Falls Urban Art Project, which is around the corner on 2nd. If you remember, before we worked there, they had transients literally sleeping on the ground there. And Google Maps, actually, if you went to look for something, there were transients at each bench all the way around it. So as we fixed it up and improved things, it helped to make it a more attractive place. We've done lots of training, lots of volunteer organization. The first one here is when we were recognized for creating a downtown group to do things in a non-traditional way. Governor Bullock recognized us for that. And then we've also done some training with NeighborWorks organizations from all over the country. I have to say this group was particularly fun for me because I took them to Electric City and they were amazed. Dover, Delaware doesn't have something as nice as Electric City. That's why we get to know one another. Training resident leaders. We've talked about this before. We have done both internal training where we train residents, and this isn't something like competing with the chamber, it's taking that PTA mom to help her create a garden, for example, a community garden, or the Little Free Libraries came from this project, a lighting project at a housing subdivision. The volunteer car got signage for the police department, that sort of thing. And the community leadership group on the right is from the prescription drug group. And when it started, Governor Bullock and now I can't remember the guy that's from the AG's office, we had a number of dignitaries come down. Whoa, Terry, now I'm really embarrassed, but we have had 5 nationally recognized resident leaders. Actually, I said 6 there, so obviously 5 I think is the correct one. There's a national award that NeighborWorks gives out. and Terry Miller, Linda Daggett, who is also a founder of NeighborWorks and on our board, and Tracy Ronick are all winners, among others. I tried to mention the people that were there. The Community Leadership Program gives money to the team to come back and do a project. For example, one of the problems we worked with the library to solve was to create a seed library so that people had access to fresh food seeds. And this just shows you what we did there. We've worked with teenagers in the resident training, both at the local level and national level. We have done lots of data-driven assessments, and hopefully will be done by the end of June with something that the board can use for strategic planning in the future. This year we got a grant to do and think about diversity and inclusion. And so we were fortunate enough to work with a base diversity and inclusion committee to do a mural of Eddie Reed, who was one of the important baseball players for Great Falls, but he also really helped to break the racial barriers in Great Falls, because until the mid-50s, African Americans could only live within a 10-block radius of the AME church on the south side. So he was pretty powerful. We just had that dedication, and this is his family that is there. And then we recognized, I think you've probably seen in your board packet, a young air pilot who was one of the first Air Force pilots in World War II that was part of the Lend-Lease program. This was another base initiative, and so that was installed on the base of the fighter jet in Lions Park. I think we've established a really good relationship with that committee now, and we can move forward. They also are arranging with a whole cast of the library, the city, and the Y to do a celebration for Juneteenth on June 19th. Those of us in Montana, I was not familiar with the event until one of the base members brought it to my attention, but it's the end of slavery in Texas. And so that will be a huge event. They're doing a proclamation on the 15th. And then the celebration at Gibson Park will be the afternoon of the 19th. So now we're going to pivot. You've seen kind of what we've done in the past. And now, as I understand it, we're going to pivot to incorporate outreach events and activities that we're already doing. So this is from when we spoke at, or had a booth at Rock Crest. We also did that at Autumn Run, and are going to do it, I believe, next week at River Run. Those are housing units that we are to present or to have a presence and offer education. So we will cultivate residents for both engagement. This fellow happens to be a person who lives there at Rock Crest, and to encourage them to do volunteering for us. This will stretch engagement or braid our work into all lines of business. And it will also help us reach back to provide services to those folks that we've served through either like Rock Crest or HBE or rental counseling, that sort of thing. And really, I should turn this over to Chelsea, because she can explain the signature events that really will become part of the community initiatives line of business and planning. So she can explain that next.
Yeah, so just to give you a run through of the kind of the larger events that we do every year. Of course, we do smaller things kind of throughout the year in between these larger events, but I just wanted to touch base on all of these. So in March, we typically do our fund drive, where we ask area businesses to host a fundraiser for NeighborWorks Great Falls. And that's when we're using a lot of volunteers, a lot of business partners to help us raise money. Then in May, as Carol was talking about, we have our community cleanup. And that's another pretty big event where we're utilizing teams of volunteers from a variety of different businesses around town to clean up different parts of town, public sites, private homes, different things like that. And then in May, we also have our high school house open house. So several of you were there last week, so thanks for coming. And right now, every June, we have NeighborWorks Week. And so during NeighborWorks Week, we have a variety of different trolley tours where you can check out the NeighborWorks impact in the downtown community. And then we also have our Most Improved Awards every year. And that's actually this coming Thursday. I'm sure you guys have all seen the emails I've sent out about that. But basically a time for us to recognize other people in the community who have used their own money, invested their own time into improving their home, their business, and ultimately just improving our neighborhoods. And then this year we're also doing a safety panel, which is new. And that's our event that's happening tonight at 5:30, just to talk about neighborhood safety. So NeighborWorks Week is typically pretty full of different NeighborWorks events throughout the week. And then in September, we have our Dream Street. So that's the time, typically it's in September, that event kind of moves around. But when our 10 families who have built their own homes move in, we'll host an event called Dream Street where we celebrate their work and kind of get to see the inside and the inside of their home, and then also just the street as it's completed. And we also have the high school house groundbreaking. As school starts up, we'll be able to see the ground and the lot where the high school house will stand. And much more, basically just small events that we have kind of throughout the year. And those vary year to year. So that's a basic run through of the different NeighborWorks events.
That was a very quick overview. And so I thought certainly some people have been with this program for many years. Does anyone have questions or things to add? Karen or Terry? You have been involved in this since 2008, I believe. I realized that was pretty fast. So if anybody wants a copy of the PowerPoint, I can certainly provide that as well. Any questions? I was profound and moving and insightful. So you don't have any questions? Well, I would invite you to consider being on the neighborhood committee. It's very interesting and timely so that you know really what is going on and what those needs are in the community. Is there anything else, Sherry, that you would like me to cover, or Steve?
No, I think it was well done. I think it shows how diverse the areas that you're covering, and I'm sure that's what the new board members picked up on for sure. So thank you to both of you for presenting that.
Any other questions? All right. I guess we can go ahead and end early then. Holler if you would like to have a copy of the PowerPoint. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol and Chelsea. Well done.